Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am delighted to have you here, and I am so excited. Not only is it Friday, but tonight is the summer solstice white party. It is my favorite event on the farm every year. It's so dreamy. We have a beautiful tent, a long table set for 20 for a delicious dinner in my field. We make flower crowns out of the peonies. We set intentions for the season ahead. We burn them in a bonfire. It is dreamy goodness. I can hardly stand it. It's so fun. If you are local, there might be a seat at the table. I don't know. DM me right now. If you are not, please save the date for next year. We're going to try it on a Saturday next year, which will also be June 20th. It is the Saturday before Father's Day. And I would love to have you at my table. So save the date, save your seat, all the good things. But I am just so elated to share my beautiful property and my beautiful vision and my beautiful friends all dressed in white. It's the best. And it just so happens that it's a few days before my birthday. So I just pretend that that is my birthday party, and it is glorious in every way. Speaking of glorious in every way, today's guest, oh my goodness, Rhiah Kujat, who her friends call her Rhiah, and I am so delighted that since we recorded this episode, we have become friends, and she was one of the speakers at our Say Yes Summit back in April. She is phenomenal. I love her so much. Wait a minute. She might have been, I think she was a speaker in February. Oh, she was. She was a speaker in February with Anna K. Morris. Oh my gosh. Okay. She's so fabulous. I know you're going to love this conversation because I love her so much. She is an award-winning writer, a memoirist, and educator whose work celebrates connection, authenticity, and the beauty of living boldly. A winner of the Soul Making Keats Literary Award and the Independent Spirit Award for Film, Rhiah has created transformative programs like the Passion Guide, the Sacred Sexy Course, and Principles of Love. Her work empowers individuals to break free from inherited patterns, embrace sensuality, and foster meaningful relationships. Through inquiry, intuitive practices, and body-oriented wisdom, she inspires lasting change and relational healing. You are going to love my new friend, Rhiah. Please enjoy. Rhiah,
Yes.
I am beyond delighted to have you here. I'm so excited for this conversation. I have been loving your book. I can't wait to introduce you to my listeners. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. I've been looking forward to this conversation for so long, and I'm delighted to connect with you on this topic of how saying yes to ourselves allows us to become more of who we are. It's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. So you probably wouldn't have known that, but I'm so delighted that we've connected.
I loved it. And I know we'll talk more about it. And I want to hear all about the influence and the intention around it. But I just love that it's filled with flowers. And I'm a flower farmer. And
Oh,
I love that there's a whole poem to the word yes, which is so fun. And even that one is such an invitation for anybody to write their own story about yes. It's all just, it's so yummy and delicious. And I want to get in there. However, I would like to ask you first,
yeah.
and they could be the same answer, who knows, but how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Mm, I knew you were going to ask me this question.
Such a good question.
It's such a good question because for every season there is a different yes. And I think embedded in your question is the wise acknowledgement of that. So thank you for framing it that way. And I have two ways I'm saying yes to myself in this moment.
Perfect.
One is super simple. One is the Nike motto of just do it.
Mm.
Just do it. I feel particularly in this season of life, I'm 52 years old, and
Welcome.
thank you.
You're
Oh, it's
welcome.
a great era to be in.
Oh, it's
I believe it's, yeah.
brilliant. Oh
Yeah.
my word. I almost wish I started here, but
Oh,
I'm
yes.
glad that I know what I know when I got here.
Me too. And to that point, all of the seasoning that happens in the
Mhm.
decades prior. And I'm really someone who is voracious about learning and growth. And I'm into full immersion experiences. I've invested tens and thousands of dollars on my own personal growth. And at this season, I'm just like, nope, no more focusing on the deep dives. I am who I am, and that's enough. And I'm just going to do the things that light me up and give me joy.
I love it. That is the actual deep dive,
It is the actual deep dive.
right?
It's true. It is the ultimate. And I want to acknowledge and highlight again, I don't want to misquote you, but I listened to your podcast with Amy Kemp, which was brilliant.
Oh, I love her.
But you had said something like the real revolution is the joy and expansion.
Mm.
And
That
I
sounds like something I would say. I love it. Thank you.
I was so delighted to hear that. I was like, and I get to talk to her all about joy and expansion if we want to.
Oh
Um,
gosh, we want to.
we want to, right? It's for me, it's marinating and basking in those qualities that feel
Mm.
expansive, that allow us to be the best versions of ourselves. And so when I was even, writing about words like beauty or joy, it was for that reason. It was for me to give my own nervous system the felt sense experience of that word and what it means.
Mm,
And it became like a meditation.
right.
And it's not only a meditation, but then I get to live and breathe that in everything I do that day just by slowing down and connecting with that internal energy that the meaning of the word holds in a generative way, because we all have our associations of our lived experiences that are imprints that we can choose to be engaged with or not. But I really believe that steeping ourselves
Mm.
in expansion and joy is the ultimate blueprint for living,
It's so good. I agree. Of course, I agree. That's why we're together.
Yes.
It's just so beautiful because it's not all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
However, there's so much. For me, one of my mantras is I'm only available for what delights me. And it has been the filter for the last 5 years that everything runs through. And there are certainly elements of my day, elements of my experience that on its own, this cleaning of the chicken coop or whatever practice that I don't even have chickens anymore, sadly. Um, a cougar, or I mean, a bobcat. I
Mm,
know, awful. But anyway, doing something like that, pulling the weeds or whatever, is that action doesn't delight me necessarily on its own, but I love being a flower farmer. So
mm,
it's a
mm,
part of the thing that does delight me. So
mm,
I'm appreciative of that responsibility and that role in the overall picture. And in the same way, these awarenesses of contrast or discoveries in myself that I remember a long time ago, I heard Patsy Claremont say, you find out what's in your cup when it gets bumped.
mm,
And
mm.
sometimes I come against a growth edge and think, ooh, wow, that was not attractive at all. And instead of shying away from that or making an excuse or whatever practice I might have done a few years ago,
Mm,
now I'm like, ooh, let's get a flashlight in there. Like, let's excavate. I don't need to necessarily get to the root cause and, do some whatever seance, like whatever needs to happen to, break some ancestral. I don't need, I'm not to discount that at all.
yeah.
But for me, I don't want to focus so much on why
Mhm,
something's happening. I want to focus on, that is not in alignment with the woman that I'm becoming and on my way to right now. And I don't want to ignore that. I want to be aware of that because what I focus on grows, but what I ignore
mhm,
also doesn't go away. It's right where I left it.
mhm,
So I just get excited when there is an opportunity for growth and expansion because I also know that the timing of the awareness is because the soil of my heart has been prepared for what's about to grow,
mm,
and I'm ready for that.
mm. Beautiful metaphor. So true. And I so appreciate you speaking to the becoming of awareness at a very specific point in time when there's a need or a necessity for it for the next step
Yeah.
without being indulging or ruminating and becoming identified with
Hmm.
the suffering of the why.
Yeah.
And it also reminds me of something my coach said to me recently. And I'm on the very same page as you. I like to be aware of what I'm thinking or believing that's leading me astray, but
Yes.
then I don't want to spend hours going into it like I used to at one point in time.
Right, right.
And she said to me something so profound and simple. She said, "It's like you've just, bitten into a strawberry and realized you're allergic to it. And now you know what you're allergic to. It's like that's all you need to know. And you just move on and you don't eat strawberries anymore."
Right. You don't have to try one once a week to see if you're still allergic. You just,
Right. Or delve into that why,
right.
it's not always the most helpful or productive thing to do.
Right. I mean, obviously we're both just speaking for ourselves. So I know there's so much value in that for some people. For me, I feel like this shift in trajectory is relatively new. It's about 5 years since I was awakened to the idea that I am the deliberate creator of my experience and I don't need to wait for somebody else to give me permission to live the life that I desire. So
Mhm.
that was new to me. But I am an eager student like you, and I went all in on that. And so I feel like I am in not from a place of lack that I'm running out of time, but I feel like I have this awareness of what it was like to have an unlived life
Mhm.
and what it feels like to have a life that I am creating, that I'm carving out, that's not in an efforting way, but in a really intentional way. And I like it. So I don't want to distract myself from the beauty that's waiting for me in the next hour.
Mhm,
So I'm
mhm,
going to identify as I can and by being present, like, ooh, that did not feel good in my body. Or I'm parenting an 11-year-old. She is a unicorn. She is the most amazing person I have ever met. She's fabulous in every way. And she's not 3 anymore. And I am a person that loves schedule, and I do something and I typically do it the same way over and over. So having that structure of my day-to-day actions interact with an evolving piece of art that is having her own emotions and her own experience and doesn't need as much of my minute by minute guidance as I thought she once did, or I might think she needs now, and letting her have her own experience and reminding both of us that I've never parented before and she's never been my daughter before that we are aware of, and that we're figuring this out together. So there's a lot of opportunities for apology
mm,
and conversation
mm.
around, I felt like I needed to tell you you couldn't do that and you didn't enjoy hearing that information. And as I continued to reflect on it, I don't really know why I need you to not do. I don't have a good reason except for what my experience was growing up. So it's just this beautiful evolution that is unfolding day by day with a front row seat of also parenting.
Right. It's incredible to hear you speak about your relationship with your daughter as, perceiving her as a piece of art. And she's the artist of that artwork. And only what I hear in that is only she is the creator of her own life.
Hmm.
Really having so much respect around the sovereignty of that, like respecting the self agency in her becoming herself
Yes.
while navigating also the things that, parents are meant to do to keep us safe and,
Right.
um, you know, secure from true threat and danger. But it's a constant. I can only imagine. I'm not a parent, though what I'm really connecting with is this idea of partnership in that, right?
Right.
And you're there as, a way of you're relating to each other as a way of supporting each other.
Hmm.
It's it has that sense of agency in it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And I feel like I mean, obviously, I'm supposed to be her mother and I'm supposed to have been forced to wait this entire time. That didn't make sense while I was waiting, but completely makes sense now. But just to be able to raise her in this environment of we are constantly course correcting and we're speaking our truth in a safe place and we're doing it respectfully, but I'm not pretending like I know
Mhm.
what is best for her with regard to how she feels about something in this moment. I can't know. I'm not inside of her.
Mhm.
And I want her to trust that knowing.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm just like we're both learning how to listen to our bodies at the same time. She
Mhm.
just didn't have this giant gap where she forgot how to do that in the middle like I did. So it's a really beautiful opportunity.
Wow, that is wonderful. I also love the suggestion of apology, like those moments of catching a default of thinking we know, but really do we know? Can we ever know what's best for someone else? Probably not. but especially in that position of being a chaperone,
Yeah.
to an artist.
Right? It's so fun. I'm just like a docent of this beautiful gallery and I'm making sure nobody steals the painting, but I'm going to let
Right.
the painting be the painting.
Flourish and give it its life. What do you find has been helpful for you in navigating this newness for the first time of letting you be you and navigating that territory and letting her be herself?
What a thoughtful question. Thank you. Um, my meditation practice and morning practice where I'm checking in. And because she and I live here alone together, she's constantly on my mind. And if I'm recall, I mean, it just happened last night, and then I apologized this morning. So like that's we didn't go to bed upset. It the conversation shifted, but I had an opportunity just to think through like why if I'm having a conversation that is about a video game. I mean, it's so silly about a video game and my interpretation of her avatar. I mean, it's everything that I say in this microphone. The opposite is what I was saying to her. Was I don't want you like you look like I didn't say like your avatar looks like a hooker. Like I didn't want to say that because that wasn't a conversation I was ready to have either. But I was like, what makes that look like a hooker? And it's like, what in my conditioned response says you can't choose the hairstyle you like and the makeup you like and the clothes that you like for a video game avatar because somebody else might think that your mother is raising a hooker? Like, I like it clearly had, sorry that I'm like totally digressing, but it had nothing to do with what we were talking about. It was this sense of I felt like I was not in control of I was not in control.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I felt like I needed to exert some control. And just to watch her, if she was being fresh about it and like telling me how I don't understand and all the things that I said to my parents, then I would like get it. But she wasn't. She was injured. Like it hurt her spirit for me to suggest that something she created was not to my liking. And that, like, I was having an out of body experience while we were having the conversation. Like, I could watch myself and going, uh, who's the crazy lady that is freaking out about something that's not even real that four other children see? Like, it doesn't even matter. So, it it's just really, I mean, this is growth and expansion in real time for like for me, for the listener. Like this is how it is. Like I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have. And what I love about my morning practice, what I love about my commitment to myself and this personal work I'm doing and how I'm raising this young girl is that the turnaround time is faster,
Mhm. Mm.
right? So, I mean, we slept in the middle, but really there was 25 minutes of waking time between our conversation and my apology.
Oh, it's so wonderful. And so wonderful, even the stuff that it doesn't go unacknowledged. So often these things won't go acknowledged and it's just becomes the normal of relating. So even the fact of acknowledging it, and then on top of that, that it can be done so quickly with those your own practice of awareness. It's just we're all living this human experience, navigating our nervous systems and what makes us feel, like have that animal instinct kick in to protect ourselves or others. And it's always a practice to see what's a real danger and what's not.
Right.
And I'm experiencing that too with the
Sure.
fires and how, there's a lot of panic everywhere. And it's, I also have a meditation practice. So when I was making the decision to evacuate or not, technically my neighborhood was not in an evacuation zone, but I didn't want to put myself subject to that moment of, a middle of the night emergency evacuation and I'm searching
Right.
for my things. And
Right.
so I did what would make me feel relaxed and safe. But it's really easy. I had to catch myself kind of like engaging with a friend's panic at one point where she was like, you got to get out of there fast. Like this could be the apocalypse, and gridlocked. And that's not the kind of energy I want to make a decision from.
Right.
It's like a distorted way of taking care of myself. And so I think that's the discernment that we're always faced with in this human experience of what is guiding our decisions and how we relate to ourselves and then relate to others.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I think this practice of presence
mm,
and this practice of saying yes to yourself. Like I mean, that's the whole mission of this podcast and of everything that I do is to normalize this practice so that the course correcting doesn't happen once a year or
right.
like we're in now a 12-step program and we have to write letters to people. It's like, let's just be in this in real time
Mhm.
together and acknowledge that we're making some changes. We are going to start saying yes to ourselves. It's going to be clunky. It's always awkward before it's elegant, as my mentor, Gina DeVee, would say. Like, we're just in this together and expecting ourselves to do it perfectly and expecting perfection from other people is just messy and a distraction from what we are all aiming for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really feel a connection in what you're saying with the notion of innocence. Like we're
Mm,
all innocently living our lives until we know better. That's the assumption that I want to make about myself and others. And
right.
then when we do see something where we've misstepped or, needed to course correct in some way with an apology, one of the things that I come back to for myself, which is also in my book in forgiveness and the forgiveness
Mm,
poem, is that we can't always see then what we can see now. Right. So it's like being able to forgive ourselves for not being able to
mhm.
see then what we can see now. The same way we wouldn't judge a blind person for suddenly regaining their sight and not being able to see something when they were blind.
Right.
Very similar kind of regard for ourselves and each other too, to offer
Yes.
that grace along the bumpy, thumpy road.
Right. That's so beautiful. Like, I love that, this idea that we're all one and that we're all love is the only thing that's real and all of these things. And we are also having our own individual experience
Yes.
in this day to day life that we're in. So much of our motivation and our choices around what we do have to come from a place of alignment inside of ourselves.
Mhm.
Because if we're waiting for somebody else to act a certain way so that we can be happy, there's more than one person in the world. So even if you get that one friend to just be your yes person, you've got a very small existence and the conditions are always around us. So this unconditional alignment where I'm going to use this self care practice of saying yes to myself, of listening to my body, of knowing when I need to have a conversation with Amelia that is asking her to change a behavior or when I need to apologize for suggesting that she does change something and she didn't need to, in my, I mean, and it's all just happening in real time. It's just this balance of knowing that we're interacting with other people, but we're also committed to staying in our own lane.
Yes, absolutely. And I really feel for myself in the practice of being in alignment with that deeper yes.
Yeah.
I know what it takes for me is to slow down and to have the silence and the inquiry around what am I thinking and believing in that moment that felt off,
Right.
and really inquiring about it in a way that's illuminating in some way. If there is something for me to take responsibility, or maybe not, which is what I would love to speak to for a moment, because
Please.
what you've just said is profound in the notion of staying in our lane and not trying to change the other person, which I have been guilty of in intimate relationships. Like
Oh, I'm a professional. I can
over.
spot one. Yeah,
So it takes a lot. And because I'm such a passionate believer in transformation, I can easily project that onto someone else, right?
sure.
Especially someone who I'm close with. So it really took a lot for me to stay in my lane in intimacy and not try to offer the tools and skills and everything so that I could, all with good intentions,
Mhm.
but it's got to be their choice and it's not my job, right? And so for me, I really connect with that notion of coming back to the slowness and the awareness in order to be able to discern what is mine that I can take responsibility for and agency for and choice.
Mhm.
And that's where it's a lot about letting go of control, especially with those who we love dearly and often have attachment with too, right? In the connection and pleasure and security and comfort that
Right.
intimate relationships offer to us. So I really appreciate you highlighting this notion of not trying to change the other because it's something I've needed to become deeply aware of in myself.
Oh, it's no joke. Oh my gosh. I mean, I I'm a sticky note person, so I will hear these mantras or read something in a book and underline it and then create a sticky note. This window in front of me is covered with them. And for a very long time, one of them read, own my own experience. Like
Yeah.
I'm just, which was a way of staying in my lane, which was only put energy toward what I can actually control, which is my own experience. And really, what that reminder was to let everybody else own their own experience
Mhm.
because I was 100% a high functioning codependent person that could not tolerate the discomfort of somebody else, like their own discomfort based on their action or inaction. So I would be spinning all these plates and turning myself into a pretzel to make sure that all of the stars aligned for their experience because I didn't want them to feel bad because it messed with my joy. If
Mm.
you feel bad, it makes my day bad, and I'm going to do whatever I can to protect my joy, thinking that I had to control someone else's experience as a way to protect my joy.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'm relating 1,000%. Every cell in my body right now is saying, I know this.
Yep.
So, inside out of controlling the other, trying to control the other's experience. And my word for that is like managing their experience so I can
Yep.
manage experience.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really helped me with this is that I saw it was applying to every area of my life, my work, that I was over managing things in my work to make it okay for others,
Totally.
or managing, my intimate relationship and trying to bring them into joy so I could be in my joy.
Right.
And I realized something really powerful is that when I step away from having any kind of responsibility for their feelings, which is very much one of the threads of codependency, and I just immerse myself in my own pleasure and completely disengage from the guilt of not taking care of their feelings, because as women we're also conditioned to
Right.
support men
Hmm.
in navigating the emotional experience, because that's been so suppressed culturally
Right.
for them. So it's easy to step in and try to support that when we see that's missing. And getting over that guilt was one of the most freeing things of my life. And being steeped in my own pleasure and joy. And then I could come back and have a clear conversation about what's mine and what's not mine to take care of.
Right. And so often them watching us experiencing our own joy and pleasure brings that to them. I mean, words don't teach, right? It's experience that teaches. And so when we're doing that, we're modeling it not only for our children, but for the people we're in relationship with. So that
Mm,
they get to see that, and then they get to make a decision. Like either they're gonna have their own joy fest or they're not.
yeah.
But it no longer messes with my joy. I said this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, but I just received the most beautiful compliment from Amelia.
Mm.
She said, we weren't having a conversation about, anything specific to her dad, but she just said, Dad seems to be a lot more happier than he did when he lived here.
Ah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Like it's all I want because I found joy and freedom and I mean I knew it wasn't available for both of us to have that together in the same house and I just wanted that for him. But
Mm,
you can want something for somebody, but if
right.
they don't want that, it doesn't matter. And when I became unattached
Yeah.
from his experience,
Yeah.
he got the experience that I wanted him to have, and he did it all by himself, which he was totally capable of this whole time if I would have only given him a chance to not be an under functioner because I was over functioning.
It allows someone else to come into their power. And it comes back to, the opening of your podcast, of experiencing that power of when we say yes to ourselves. It's beneficial for all.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. That's the line. Everybody does win in ways that we can't even imagine.
Right.
Just get in our lane and be true to ourselves. And, you know, let things play out as they will, and have that trust. Well, yeah.
It's so, I mean, we do not need to police the universe. We don't need to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing so that, because it's a distraction from doing the work ourselves, right?
It really is a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that ever so lightly too. One of the things I'd become more aware of in my own life, specifically in the role of a somatic therapist and, being in service of other people or in support of facilitating healing for others, was really looking at like letting them have their own experience too. And I'm there as a witness and a support to
Mhm.
allow for a safe and supported space for their own wisdom to unravel. But any notion of me having any kind of control or even influence really
Right?
on else's growth or healing in a way is just absurd. And so it was really important for me to understand that and then also understand it in friendships as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because of my background or my skills, I'm not going to insert that into advice for a friend and really respect, they have all of the answers inside of themselves. So that has also been a journey. too, and the
Right.
growth of staying in my lane and just knowing that ultimately we cannot, manage other people's
Right.
experiences.
Right. I love that you've come to that knowing as a coach, because I think a lot of, now that I'm in this fabulous vortex of all these women doing all of this beautiful work and either starting their own coaching business or whatever they're doing, seeing coaches, there's, from the client side and from the coach side, there's this responsibility. It's like,
Mm,
well, none of the other coaches worked. So I hope you are good at this because I haven't
mm,
had the success that
mm.
I was promised in any of these programs. It's like, common denominator is going to be you. So
Yes.
as the client realizing that, like you said, all of the answers are inside of us and we're just looking for a mentor, a coach that's going to hold the space that resonates with us to locate and identify what those answers are. And then for a coach, especially when starting, I know my friends have said, like, oh, I'm so nervous. Like, what if they don't get the success or the results? And again, just realizing you're staying in your lane as a coach as well. It's like, it's my job to set the table. It's my job to invite you there. And whatever you choose to eat or take away from this interaction is whatever you're prepared for, and
Mhm.
and whatever you're willing to participate in.
Right. Yes. And then it brings it back to the self-agency again. That's a beautiful metaphor. This invitation and setting the table and allowing space to engage. And then it's really up to those who are invited, right, into the connection.
Right. It's one of the things that I love so much about, even having people come do solo retreats or farm stays at my bed and breakfast. Like,
Mhm.
I just love holding space for women that are holding space for themselves.
Mhm.
And there's
Uh-huh.
so much that happens there's just so much transformation that happens in just the decision to come and do that. They
Absolutely.
can stay in their robe all day and read a book, or
Yeah.
we can roll out the butcher paper and do a mind map and have this completely safe space to dream. We'll get water and sunshine on that thing, and you can leave with a business plan, like whatever you want this to be. We can go into the dahlia field and pick flowers and then make an arrangement in my fabulous barn. Like, it's all dreamy, but
Mm.
it's gets to be whatever they need it to be.
Right.
All
Right.
I did was buy a fabulous house and say yes to myself and do the work that has resulted in being the woman who loves to hold space for women that are holding space for themselves. So I know, like, I didn't just show up and open the door and this amazing vortex showed up, but am I'm finding that my joy and expansion is even greater
Mm.
when I'm able to invite others
Mhm.
into it.
Mhm. Mhm. That's beautiful. I I have a little smile inside right now because you and I have something else in common.
Yay!
But I ran a retreat house in Northern California, and it was exactly for the purpose of bringing people together to, have the space to work on their deeper why and
Mm.
be in their own zone of genius and let it be whatever their purpose of that moment is.
Oh,
So I really appreciate that you're honoring and speaking to this simple but profound notion that opening the door and providing a space for someone to show up for themselves allows the other person, simply by saying yes to it, to connect with their own intention. And whatever that
mhm.
is not
Right.
really any of our business.
Right.
Yeah, there is something about the intentionality on both sides that creates a beautiful vortex.
Right. This is co-creation at its best. It's so beautiful. Where was that? Because I moved here from Saratoga.
Oh, my place was in San Rafael
So
in
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was wonderful. I got to use so many parts of myself. My passion for transformation, and I love interior design, so I got to design the interior space with a designer who I worked with in the area. But it was all just tremendously satisfying,
Mm,
yeah, to offer
it's
that.
so dreamy. So how did you get to from that beautiful place to where
Mhm.
you are now to writing this gorgeous book? I love it. Tell everyone about it. I just want to hear more about your inspiration. I love that, listener. It's this beautiful book of poetry, but it's also a glossary. So each of the works are a concept or a word, and it's all in alphabetical order. And it's very fun, and it answers the question: beauty is, becoming is, betrayal is. And then each of these works answers that question. It's so gorgeous. I'm sure you obviously can say that more eloquently. I have loved reading it. It's so beautiful. And I like to have just one a day. Like, I want to drip it so that I can take it all in, more than binge it, because I don't want it to get lost.
Thank you. I love hearing your experience of the book. It's really satisfying. And I've had others say that too, that they like to take just one dose a day
Mhm.
and savor it, which delights me because I so believe that when we slow down and savor
Mhm.
our experience, we get a richer experience of life, period.
Yes. I just giggled because when Amelia was 2, we adopted her from China. And I was teaching her when she was drinking because she was just ravenous, poor
Yeah.
thing. So she would just drink or eat really fast. And I would always say, sip, sip and savor.
Mhm.
So when you just said savor, it just makes me giggle because she would always, if friends were gulping their drink, she would say, "Oh, sip and savor, please." So
Sip and savor. Oh, that's a succinct and concise way of saying it. Sip and savor. That is
yes.
sweet.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry. Back to your book. Fabulous.
So, I'd love to answer your question of how I got from running this retreat house in Northern California to writing this book. And I sold the business midway through COVID because COVID made things very challenging. And then I
Mhm.
followed an intuitive knowing that it was the time to let go of that business, but also an identity that I had had for a very long time,
Mm.
around managing, which I mentioned earlier. And it was like my way of interacting with work. And I had worked also in real estate for 20 years, always on the side of my artistry and my work as a practitioner for somatic therapy. And so I was really letting go of this part of my identity that was engaged in managing. And I gave myself basically 2 years to live around the world in different countries and just live life completely guided by intuition and follow my bliss.
Mm.
And I was inspired to write this book for a few reasons at the time. I had seen my first poetry performance by Rupi Kaur, who's a Canadian poet. And her poetry is very simple, or resonates for me in her poetry is that there's a simplicity where you don't need to decode anything, like you know
Mhm.
exactly what it's about. And I really love that about metaphor, using metaphors in writing. And I also felt this longing for deeper understanding
Mm.
with language because I felt that words in the coaching industry, like passion, like joy, like beauty, were overused and their meanings were lost and became reductive. And so I wanted to give meaning and slow down and savor the
Mm.
nuanced meaning of my own lived experiences in those words and give life to them again and honor the life-giving experiences of those words.
Mm.
So that's one of the reasons that inspired me to write the book. And then the other, which I discovered along the way, is that by writing about each word, I got to feel like I could slow down and savor that vibration. And it would give me just a full and rich and beautiful way to walk into the day. And it also helped me to, as I was writing this book, it's very much about my own lived experience, even though I don't talk about my own stories in the book. It was like distilling my own wisdom from the lived experiences in a way that, this is just what I understand about these words, but others will have their own understanding and their own connection to these words. So it's my hope that people walk away from reading it with a kind of curiosity and a sense of a playful invitation to redefine the
Yeah.
meaning, the deeper meaning of these words for themselves. And through that, like discover who they're becoming in this season.
Mm. It's so good.
That's why I felt inspired to write the book. And honestly, it was also just something that gave me a lot of joy without knowing exactly what it would give to others. But now that it's written, I feel connected to that sense of, the life-giving qualities of being able to review life experiences and how we relate to language and ourselves to
Right.
live our best lives.
Oh, I love that. And complete mission accomplished because I found that as I was reading and then I would reflect during the day, I would hear that word or I would say that word in conversation, and it made me think of your words. And
Mm.
then some made me think, oh, how would I define this? Or what would I add to this in my own? It was just, I feel like they're practically journal prompts in
Yes.
the sense that they open up this invitation for continued practice and something that you can individualize.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful.
I'm so happy to hear that you felt it as a prompt. That's what I hope, that it will be absorbed as a prompt. And I take it as a prompt too. I often think of these words and have a new experience and think, oh, I want this another definition for that word.
Right?
How I'm connecting to an inner beauty that I'm feeling at a specific moment in time. So it's fun that it can keep going.
Right.
It keeps on living and a gift that keeps on giving, even for me. So
I feel like that so much about writing. I mean, I've not authored a book. However, I told Amelia this morning at the end of my practice, I had just started writing in my journal, and 3 pages later, I told her, I was like, oh, I think I just started my book.
Mm.
It was like, that's never happened. So we'll see. You heard it first here, friends, which is so fun. But I feel like there's in with the authors that I've spoken to that there's this almost this birthing process of this project, and some people they've made a decision that's going to be completely joy filled and easy, and for some people it was really challenging because it opened some little treasure chests
Mhm.
of excavation and healing that happened that was necessary and appropriate to continue writing the book. But it's not done. Like when the book is done, I feel like that's just the beginning. Like that was, similar to me leading into my divorce. I sat in the question of my divorce for 9 months before I had the courageous conversation with my husband.
Mhm.
And at that point, like that became just the beginning of what was happening for him. But for me, like I had already had all of this groundwork. So when people found out and then they asked me, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm totally okay now." Like 9 months ago was that was rough. So the book, you've written it, it's published, but now it has this life. Like you've launched it into the world and now it gets to have its own life and its own impact that you still get to be a part of and celebrate, but
Mhm.
it's almost like, speaking from a scar instead of a wound, or it's
Mhm.
like this different highlight. I mean, it was not that it was a painful experience, but it's just interesting how it takes on a different form, but it's still deeply connected to you.
Right. Yes, such a great question. And I am relating to two parts of this question. One is, what was the process like to write it? And then what is the process like now that
Yeah.
it's released? And for me, this book was a complete act of self-love. It was just writing it for my own joy and satisfaction. In the meantime, I've been working on a memoir for years, like a decade. And
Okay.
that one has been the heavy lift of
Yeah.
slogging and learning. And then I'll live life and look at what I've written and think, is this even relevant to who I am now? And it's not.
Mm,
So my story has morphed and changed. And what I feel is important for me to, well, regardless, it was important for me to write about it because I did. But the version that I want to publish is going to be very different than what I started writing.
sure.
And so for me, this book, Life's Poetic Glossary, was more like it was almost like the soothing balm that let me digest all the lessons that I was learning through my memoir over the last decade and distill it into satisfying little love bombs that I could remember for myself and pass on in a beautiful little, package for others to pick up when and if they felt called to it and just, have something gentle to reflect on. So the process was very beautiful, and it was also once I made the commitment to my inner yes, like I felt very called to write it, and I didn't want to overthink it. So I
Hmm.
took 1 month in November of 2023, and I wrote every single day
Wow.
for 30 days, and I finished the first rough draft of the book. So it was easy.
Yeah.
It was easy in the sense of like, as soon as I just made the commitment to finish it and showed up, then, I worked with an editor and I had a beautiful process with her. And it was all quite easy, to be honest with you.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's
So
so good. My mantra for the year is let it be easy. So I love every time I hear it.
recent ease, it was really full of flow. And I felt every step of the way I got the gift of being myself.
Mm,
So even during the launch, like I had a very small, intimate online gathering with friends, and it was exactly what it needed to be. I didn't want to plan like a big party. I just wanted one-on-one conversations with friends and,
yeah.
hearing what they felt and received from the book. And so it's been a really beautiful period of connecting with friends from all eras of my life
Mm,
around this gift. I'm going to say it's a gift because I feel gifted by getting to write it.
right.
And it gave me so much. So it's been surprisingly really fun and beautiful,
Yay.
like in terms of what I slogged through with it. Sure, there were a lot of tech things to learn and a lot to learn about the self-publishing process.
Sure.
Absolutely. I, was challenged with learning a lot of new tech things and administrative things. But yeah, the process of the content itself was really easy.
I think that's so beautiful just how that all played out, as if there's a master plan, that you got to have the learnings
Mhm.
in response to a book that was easy and gracious and like all of these beautiful things. instead of for the memoir, which was already, it's like, oh my gosh, please just format. Like, you can be so I just think that's beautiful that you got to learn that so that you have that information now so that when you're processing the work that is more tender,
Yes.
you're not going through this triggering experience of trying to get it's like I don't want a C-section. I want this to be a natural birth and just
Yes.
get it out of me and be done with it.
Mm. Yes.
And I also love that the glossary gets to be a companion product to the memoir when it comes out because of your use of these words in the memoir and then understanding your definition of those words. It's such a beautiful way to expand the reader's experience
Mm.
by informing the narrative with your definition of a commonly used word.
Yeah, that's also I really appreciate your incisive perception, both with the having this really easeful experience to have trust in my body
Yeah.
around a bigger publish, which would be my memoir,
Yeah.
and then also how it's complementary. And what I'm really excited about with my memoir is that for every chapter, I invent a new word that is specifically related to an awareness of how I wasn't staying in my lane in the moment because of XYZ. And so it's basically a new word where I glean like a new self-awareness about myself and how I was engaging, not either in my power or in my own being true to myself.
Oh, it's amazing.
And so it's really fun that both books have this kind of new angle to language. It's been really fun to play with that too.
Right. And you have another glossary now. So now you actually have three books.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna make a handbook for the memoir.
Right.
Yeah, for something like a reality check for savvy people in relationships or something like that.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. I love it so much. I have loved this conversation.
Mm.
Your energy is so warm and welcoming and an invitation to linger, but also expand and grow. It's just beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Thank you for being here. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get the book, all the good things.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing in providing a platform that really lets all of us like just engage with the joy and expansion in such an insightful way.
Mm, thank you.
And I would love to invite people to find me under my website. It's my birth name, Krista Kujat. So it's KristaKujat. And the reason why I invite them to go there is because they can be entered into a free giveaway where I give a special edition copy of my book, which has gilded pages.
So fancy.
So fancy. And they'll get a fountain pen, a 24 karat gold tipped fountain pen.
Beautiful.
And I'm offering that through 2025. I'm going to be doing these giveaways periodically for people who join my mailing list. And either way, they'll receive audios of the book, Life's Poetic
Mm.
Glossary, which I really recommend listening to before falling asleep at night because it's a way of, marinating
Mm-hmm.
that just allow for a really delicious slumber. So that's that's available for free to anyone listening.
Oh, that's so generous. Thank you. And your voice, that would be perfect. It's so good. Oh my gosh, I'm getting myself that bonus for sure. Thank you again so much for your time and for
Pleasure.
putting this beautiful work into the world. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Likewise. I appreciate you too so much, and I'm so delighted to get to know you.
Me too. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.